I donated my kidney to a stranger. 5 years later, she knocked on my door, pregnant. The doorbell rang at 7:30 on a Saturday morning, which was unusual enough to pull me away from my coffee and the crossword puzzle I'd been half-heartedly attempting. I wasn't expecting anyone. My weekends were sacred quiet time, the only reprieve from my job as a high school guidance counselor, where I spent 5 days a week mediating teenage drama and helping kids figure out which colleges would accept their mediocre GPAs. Saturday mornings were for solitude, pajamas, and pretending the outside world didn't exist. When I opened the door, a woman was standing on my porch. She was in her early 30s, visibly pregnant, maybe 7 or 8 months along, with dark curly hair pulled into a messy ponytail and eyes that were red-rimmed like she'd been crying recently. She was clutching a piece of paper in her hand, and when she saw me, her entire face crumpled with an emotion I couldn't. Relief, maybe. Or recognition. "Rachel," she said, her voice breaking slightly. "Rachel Morrison?" "Yes," I said carefully, my hand still on the door. Every instinct telling me something was deeply wrong about this situation. "Do I know you?" She took a shaky breath. "My name is Angela Chen. 5 years ago, you donated your kidney to me. You saved my life. And now, I need your help again. My name is Rachel Morrison. I'm 38 years old, and 5 years ago, I did something that most people thought was either incredibly noble or incredibly stupid. I donated my kidney to a complete stranger. Not a family member, not a friend, not even a friend of a friend. Just a person on the national transplant list who matched my tissue type and blood compatibility. I'd signed up as a living donor on a whim, honestly. It was the year after my divorce, the year I turned 33 and realized my life had become smaller than I'd planned. No kids, no partner, a job I was good at but not passionate about, a house that was too big for one person. I'd been scrolling through social media one night and saw a post about the thousands of people waiting for kidney transplants, dying while they waited. And something in me just decided, I could do this. I could give something that might actually matter. The screening process took months. Psychological evaluations to make sure I wasn't mentally unstable or being coerced. Medical tests to verify I was healthy enough to donate. Educational sessions about the risks, the recovery, the permanent changes to my body. They asked me repeatedly if I was sure, if I understood that I'd be undergoing major surgery to give an organ to someone I'd never meet. I was sure, and in March of 2019, I went into surgery and gave my left kidney to a woman whose name I never learned. The anonymous donation system meant we'd never have contact unless we both independently chose to register with the Transplant Center's Mutual Consent Program. I didn't register. I donated because I wanted to help someone, not because I wanted gratitude or a relationship. I wanted to do something good and then move on with my life. The recovery was brutal. 6 weeks of pain, limitations, exhaustion. But eventually I healed, went back to work, and rarely thought about the stranger walking around with my kidney. It became just a story I told at dinner parties occasionally. Yeah, I donated a kidney once. Made me sound interesting. Gave people something to talk about besides asking why I wasn't dating anyone. And now, 5 years later, the recipient was standing on my porch, pregnant, and asking for my help. "How did you find me?" I asked, because that seemed like the most important question. Donors and recipients weren't supposed to be able to identify each other without mutual consent. Angela looked down at the paper in her hand. "I hired a private investigator. I know I wasn't supposed to. I know it violated the anonymity agreements, but I didn't have a choice. I'm desperate." She looked up at me with those red-rimmed eyes. "Can I please come in? I need to explain something, and I can't do it standing on your porch." Against my better judgment, I let her in. Led her to my living room, gestured to the couch, and sat across from her in the armchair I'd bought after the divorce, specifically because it fit only one person. A physical reminder that I was alone now, and that was fine, that I'd chosen this independence. Angela sat heavily, one hand unconsciously resting on her pregnant belly. She was wearing jeans and an oversized sweater, the kind of comfortable clothes you wear when you've stopped caring what you look like. Her sneakers were worn, her purse was a practical canvas bag. Nothing about her suggested wealth or privilege. "When I got your kidney 5 years ago," she began, "I was dying. Kidney failure from a genetic condition. I'd been on dialysis for 3 years. I was 31 years old, and my life was just waiting to die." She paused, gathering herself. "Your kidney gave me everything back. My health, my energy, my future. I got married 2 years ago to a man I met after the transplant, someone I never would have had the strength to date when I was sick. And last year, we decided to try for a baby." "Congratulations," I said, because it seemed like the appropriate response, though I still had no idea why she was here. "The problem is," Angela continued, her voice getting tight, "is that my pregnancy is causing complications. The baby is healthy, but the stress on my body, on the kidney, on my system, it's causing the transplanted kidney to fail. My doctors say I'm in early-stage rejection. Not immediately life-threatening, but getting worse." She looked at me directly. "After I deliver the baby, I'm going to need another transplant. Soon. Maybe within 6 months. I'm sorry," I said, and I meant it. "That's terrible. But I don't understand why you're here. Why you tracked me down." Angela's hand tightened on the paper she'd been holding. "Because you're not just a random compatible donor, Rachel. You're my donor. And according to my transplant team, the compatibility was so perfect, so rare, that finding another match of that quality could take years. Years I don't have." She took a shaky breath. "My doctors told me that in cases of extreme compatibility, sometimes the original donor is willing to consider donating the second kidney. That's why I'm here. That's why I violated every rule to find you." The room went very quiet. I could hear the refrigerator humming in the kitchen, a car driving past outside, my own heartbeat suddenly loud in my ears. "You want my other kidney?" I said slowly. "I'm not asking lightly," Angela said quickly. "I know what I'm asking. I know you already gave me everything once. I know you don't owe me anything more. But Rachel, I have a baby coming in 8 weeks, a daughter. And if I don't get another transplant, I might not live to see her first birthday." She was crying now, tears streaming down her face. "I'm begging you. I'm literally begging. Please consider it. Please, just think about it." Hello. Before we continue with this incredible story, I have an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions until prior notice. Take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content that's coming. And since you're here, give me that powerful like that helps me a lot with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, from what city are you watching the video? I love meeting each of the amazing people who are part of this community. Your participation makes a difference. Let's interact. Now, where was I? Right, Angela was sitting in my living room, 8 months pregnant, crying and asking me to donate my remaining kidney. The kidney I needed to survive. Because donating your only kidney means going on dialysis for the rest of your life. It means fundamentally changing your existence, surrendering your independence. Becoming the kind of patient I'd helped her stop being 5 years ago. "I can't," I said, and my voice sounded strange in my own ears. Hollow. "Angela, I'm sorry, but what you're asking is impossible. Donors don't give both kidneys. It's not medically done. It would mean dialysis for the rest of my life. I'd be the one who's sick then." "I know," she whispered. "I know what I'm asking is insane, but I didn't know where else to turn. You're the only person with my exact compatibility markers. You're the only one who can save me again." "There has to be another way," I said. "Other donors, different treatment options, something." "My doctors have been looking," Angela said. "I'm on the transplant list, but with my history, with the rejection pattern, finding a match that works as well as yours did is unlikely. And I don't have years to wait." She looked at her pregnant belly. "I don't even have months. I need you to leave. I said, standing up abruptly. I'm sorry for what you're going through, but you can't come to my house and ask me to sacrifice my life for yours. That's not fair. That's not reasonable. Angela stood too, slower, her hand on her back like the baby was heavy. You're right. It's not fair. None of this is fair. She reached into her purse and pulled out a folder, set it on my coffee table. This is information about my case, my medical records, my transplant team's contact information, documentation about our compatibility. I'm not asking you to decide right now. I'm just asking you to read it, to think about it. She headed toward the door, then paused. I have 8 weeks until this baby is born. After that, I have maybe 6 months before the kidney failure becomes critical. That's my timeline. I'll understand whatever you decide. But please, Rachel, please at least consider it. She left, and I stood in my living room, staring at the folder on my coffee table. Like it was a bomb that might explode. I didn't open it, didn't touch it, just left it there, and went back to my coffee and crossword puzzle, pretending the last 20 minutes hadn't happened. But of course, I couldn't stop thinking about it. All weekend, I was haunted by Angela's face, her pregnant belly, the desperation in her voice. I knew what kidney failure looked like. I'd researched it extensively before my first donation. The exhaustion, the nausea, the way your body slowly poisons itself. The hours spent hooked to dialysis machines. Your life scheduled around treatment. Your diet restricted. Your energy depleted. I'd given Angela freedom from that, and now she was asking me to walk into it voluntarily. On Monday, I called my doctor. Dr. Patricia Kim had been my physician through the first donation, had cleared me for surgery, had followed up on my recovery. When I explained what had happened, she was silent for a long moment. Rachel, she said finally, what this woman is asking is ethically complicated and medically inadvisable. Living donors do not give both kidneys. The transplant community would never approve such a procedure. You'd be sentencing yourself to a lifetime of dialysis and significantly decreased quality of life. But is it possible? I asked. Medically, could it be done? Technically, yes, Dr. Kim admitted. You could donate your remaining kidney and go on dialysis. You're young, relatively healthy. You'd likely tolerate the treatment. But Rachel, why would you even consider this? I don't know, I said honestly. But I need to understand what I'm saying no to. I need to know what the reality would be. Dr. Kim sent me information. Articles about life on dialysis. Statistics about patient outcomes. Descriptions of the treatment protocols. I read all of it. Learned that dialysis patients typically spend 12 to 15 hours per week hooked to machines. That their life expectancy is significantly reduced compared to people with functioning kidneys. That the treatment is exhausting, debilitating, and never-ending, unless they receive a transplant themselves, which would require going on the same waiting list Angela was on. I would be trading my health for hers, my future for her future, my freedom for her survival. It was an impossible choice, and yet I couldn't stop thinking about it. On Wednesday, I opened the folder Angela had left, read through her medical records, the detailed compatibility reports, the projections for her kidney function decline. She wasn't lying or exaggerating. The transplanted kidney was failing. Without intervention, she had maybe a year before she'd be back on dialysis. And with a newborn baby, the stress might accelerate the timeline even further. There was a photo tucked into the folder. Angela and a man, presumably her husband, smiling at the camera. They looked happy, normal, like people who deserved a future together, who deserved to raise their daughter, who deserved not to have their lives destroyed by kidney disease. I thought about my own life, my quiet house, my solitary weekends, my routine of work, gym, groceries, Netflix, sleep, repeat. I wasn't unhappy exactly, but I also wasn't living some extraordinary existence that would be tragically interrupted by dialysis. I was comfortable, safe. Alone by choice, but still alone. What was my independence worth compared to a mother's life? What was my freedom worth compared to a child getting to know her mom? On Thursday, I called Angela's number. She answered on the first ring, her voice breathless with hope. "Rachel, I need to meet your husband," I said, "and I need to talk to your transplant team. I'm not making any promises, but I need more information before I can decide." We met at a coffee shop near the hospital. Angela came with her husband, David, a quiet man in his late 30s who looked like he'd been carrying impossible stress for months. He shook my hand with a grip that was almost desperate. "I don't know how to thank you for even considering this," he said. "We've been terrified. Completely terrified of losing her, of our daughter growing up without her mother." "I haven't agreed to anything yet," I reminded him. "I'm here to gather information." We spent 2 hours talking. They told me about their lives, their plans, their fears. Angela was a middle school teacher. David worked in IT. They'd bought a small house in the suburbs, had a nursery ready for their daughter, had names picked out, Emma Grace Chen. They were ordinary people facing an extraordinary crisis, and sitting across from them, seeing their desperation and love and hope, made the abstract question of kidney donation suddenly very real. The next day, I met with Angela's transplant team. Dr. Marcus Webb, her nephrologist, was blunt in a way I appreciated. "What you're considering is extremely rare," he said. "I've been practicing for 20 years, and I've never had a living donor offer both kidneys." The medical community generally considers it unethical because of the significant harm it causes to the donor. "But it's allowed?" I asked. "It's not specifically prohibited," Dr. Webb said carefully. "A competent adult can consent to medical procedures that harm them if they're doing so for altruistic reasons with full understanding of the consequences. We'd require extensive psychological evaluation to ensure you're not being coerced or experiencing a mental health crisis. But if you're determined, if you pass all the screening, technically yes, we could proceed." "What would my life look like?" I asked. "Be specific. I need to know exactly what I'm agreeing to." Dr. Webb laid it out with clinical precision. "Dialysis 3 times per week, 4 hours per session. Dietary restrictions limiting protein, potassium, phosphorus, and fluids. Fatigue, nausea, cramping during and after treatment. Increased risk of infection, cardiovascular disease, and bone disorders. Life expectancy reduced by an average of 15 to 20 years compared to someone with functioning kidneys. And the ever-present possibility of complications, hospitalizations, and declining quality of life as the years accumulated. You'd be giving up your health, doctor," Webb said bluntly. "Maybe not immediately, but gradually, inevitably. That's the trade. Her life for your well-being." I went home and spent 3 days barely sleeping, weighing the decision from every angle, talking to my therapist, who was deeply concerned, calling my parents, who were horrified and begged me not to do this, reaching out to the kidney donor support group I joined after my first donation, where the response was almost unanimously negative. "You've already given enough," they told me. "You don't owe this woman your remaining kidney. This is martyrdom, not altruism." But every time I started to convince myself not to do it, I thought about that photo in Angela's folder. Thought about Emma Grace Chen, who would be born in a few weeks. Thought about what it would mean for that little girl to grow up without her mother, the way my best friend from high school had after her mom died of cancer when we were 16. The hole that leaves in a person's life, the permanent absence that shapes everything that comes after. Could I live with myself if I said no? If I chose my comfort over a child having a mother? I called Angela on a Sunday evening, 3 weeks after she'd first knocked on my door. "I'll do it," I said. "I'll donate my kidney, but I have conditions." "Anything," Angela said, and I could hear her crying. "Anything you want. First, I want to meet Emma after she's born. I want to know the child I'm doing this for." Second, I need your family to commit to supporting me through the transition to dialysis. Rides to appointments, help around my house when I'm too exhausted to manage, that kind of thing. I don't have family nearby, and I'm gonna need a support system. Of course, Angela said immediately. We'll do whatever you need. Whatever you need for the rest of your life, Rachel. You'll be part of our family. And third, I said, my voice getting tight, I need you to promise me you'll take care of that kidney. That you'll make this sacrifice mean something. That you'll be the best mother you can be to Emma. That you'll live a life that makes this worth it. I promise, Angela whispered. I swear to you, Rachel, I'll make this matter. The psychological evaluations were intense. Multiple sessions with different psychiatrists, all of them probing for any sign I was being coerced, manipulated, or suffering from a savior complex. I was honest. I told them I was terrified, that I didn't want to do this, that every rational part of me was screaming this was a mistake, but that I also couldn't live with saying no, couldn't sentence a child to growing up without her mother when I had the power to prevent it. One psychiatrist asked me if I was doing this because I wanted to feel important, wanted to be seen as heroic. I thought about it carefully before answering. No, I said. I'm doing this because I already gave her one kidney, because I'm already invested in her survival, because if I don't do this and she dies, I'll spend the rest of my life wondering if I could have saved her. After 6 weeks of evaluation, I was cleared for donation. Emma Grace Chen was born on schedule, a healthy baby girl weighing 7 pounds, 3 ounces. Angela sent me a photo from the hospital, her face exhausted but radiant, holding her daughter. Thank you for my life, she'd written, and thank you for letting me meet her. The surgery was scheduled for 2 months after Emma's birth, giving Angela time to recover from delivery and bond with her baby, giving me time to get my affairs in order, to arrange for disability leave from work, to prepare my house for the limitations I'd soon be living with. The night before the surgery, David called me. His voice was thick with emotion. Rachel, I need you to know something. If you change your mind, if you wake up tomorrow and decide you can't go through with this, we'll understand. We'll be devastated, but we'll understand. You don't owe us this. You've already given us more than anyone has a right to ask. I appreciate that, I told him, but I'm not changing my mind. I'll see you tomorrow. The surgery took 6 hours. When I woke up in recovery, Dr. Kim was there, her face serious. The kidney was successfully transplanted, she said. Angela's body accepted it immediately. She's going to be fine, Rachel. You saved her life. Again. And me? I asked, though I already knew the answer. You'll start dialysis next week, Dr. Kim said gently. We'll get you on a schedule, train you on the process, help you adjust. You're going to have a harder road now, Rachel, but you knew that going in. I spent 4 days in the hospital recovering. Angela came to visit once, with David and baby Emma. She stood in my doorway, crying, unable to find words. Finally, she just said, "How do I thank you for this? How do I possibly thank you?" You take care of that baby, I told her. That's how. The first 6 months on dialysis were brutal. The exhaustion was crushing, the treatment was painful, and the dietary restrictions made eating feel like a minefield. I lost weight, lost energy, lost the easy independence I'd taken for granted my entire life. Friends from work would visit, bring meals I couldn't eat, offer help with a pity in their eyes that made me feel pathetic. But Angela's family kept their promise. David drove me to dialysis appointments twice a week. Angela's mother came to clean my house when I was too tired to manage. And Angela herself visited regularly, bringing Emma, letting me watch the baby grow from newborn to sitting up to crawling. Look, she'd say, holding Emma, look what you gave her. A mother who gets to see this, a life that gets to include me. And slowly, very slowly, I adjusted. Found a rhythm with the treatment, learned which foods I could tolerate, which days of the week I'd have energy, how to structure my life around dialysis rather than constantly fighting against it. It wasn't the life I'd planned, but it was a life. And somewhere in that adjustment, I found something unexpected. Purpose. Connection. Family. Not by blood or marriage, but by choice and sacrifice. Emma's first birthday party was at Angela and David's house, their small backyard filled with family and friends. Angela gave a toast, thanking everyone for their support through a difficult year. And then she looked at me. But most of all, she said, her voice breaking, I need to thank Rachel, who gave me not one kidney, but two. Who sacrificed her health so that I could be here today, so that Emma could have her mother. There are no words adequate for that kind of love, that kind of selflessness. So I'll just say this. Rachel, you're Emma's godmother, if you'll accept. You're part of this family forever. And we will spend every day for the rest of our lives trying to be worthy of what you gave us. I held Emma on my lap during the birthday cake. This beautiful 1-year-old with dark curly hair like her mother and an infectious giggle. She smeared frosting on my shirt and grabbed my face with sticky hands, and I thought about the choice I'd made. The health I'd surrendered, the independence I'd lost, and I thought about how if I had to make the decision again, knowing everything I knew now about the difficulty and pain and limitations, I'd still do it. Because this baby girl had a mother. Because Angela was alive to see her daughter's first birthday and would be there for her second and third and high school graduation and wedding day. Because some things matter more than comfort. Some things matter more than health. Some things matter more than your own well-being. 5 years ago, I donated a kidney to a stranger because I wanted to do something that mattered. And then that stranger knocked on my door pregnant, asking for something impossible, and I had to decide who I wanted to be, what kind of person I was willing to become. I chose to be the person who gave both kidneys, who walked into dialysis voluntarily, who sacrificed my health so a child could have her mother. It's been 3 years since the second surgery now. Emma is 4 years old. Smart and funny and entirely unaware that the woman she calls Auntie Rachel lives a medically complicated life. Angela's kidney function is perfect, stable, showing no signs of rejection. She and David are talking about having a second child, though her doctors are cautious given her history. My life is different than I imagined. I spend 12 hours a week in dialysis. I'm tired more than I'd like. I can't travel easily, can't eat whatever I want. Can't pretend I'm healthy. But I'm also not alone anymore. I have Angela's family, Emma's birthday parties, Sunday dinners at their house where I'm always included, always wanted. I have connection, purpose, a life that matters not because of what I accomplish or achieve, but because of what I chose to give. People ask me sometimes if I regret it, if I wish I'd said no when Angela knocked on my door that Saturday morning. The answer is complicated. I regret the pain, the limitations, the ways my body has been diminished. I regret the things I can't do anymore, the spontaneity I've lost, the constant awareness of my own fragility. But I don't regret saving her. I don't regret giving Emma her mother. I don't regret becoming the kind of person who could make that choice, even knowing the cost. I donated my kidney to a stranger 5 years ago. She knocked on my door pregnant and asked for the impossible, and I gave it to her, not because I was heroic or saintly or better than anyone else, but because when faced with that choice between my comfort and a child's mother, I couldn't choose myself. That's the truth I carry now. In every dialysis session, in every moment of fatigue, in every limitation I navigate, I made the hardest choice of my life, and it cost me everything I'd taken for granted. But it gave Emma her mother, and that, I've learned, is worth any price I had to pay. Angela knocked on my door pregnant. I opened it and eventually gave her my remaining kidney. And in doing so, I discovered that the measure of a life isn't what you keep for yourself, but what you're willing to give away, even when it costs you everything, especially then.